These incidents have caused me to wear this, and a couple of you have shown off your body cameras. I suggest everybody wears one. I've actually gone through a couple different body cameras. The police actually know how to use them, and so they'll take them from you, and I've had a couple of incidences where the officers have actually taken my body camera and erased the footage of them harassing me. So this one actually downloads straight to the cloud, so they can't do that anymore.
And based upon those, did you reach any opinions as to whether, in fact, the suspect fired at the officers?
Yes.
And what was the conclusion?
We did not believe that he fired at the officers.
The reason I took the Ambien was to get a good night's sleep so I can go to work the next day. And part of my job is to guard the gate, not let anybody into the premises. I'm thinking in my head that what I was doing was I was at work. I was standing here originally, and this pimp drove into the complex, came around the corner, and I was standing in the middle of the parking lot. Under his own words, he said that he was going to get through me or around me no matter what he did. And he tried to drive through me, and I pulled out my weapon. He backed up into this fence, jumped out, and hopped across the street. I walked up to the car itself, and that's when I fired my rounds at the car. My gun was empty at that point. So when I walked up to the car, which is now going to be here, this is when the two Metro officers were coming from Dottie's next door, meeting with their informant, which I think is a Long Island iced tea. So they encounter me here. The passenger, Officer Denton, gets out of the car, which is A1, and he says, you know, hey, we're here to help you, because they think that I'm intoxicated because I'm stumbling around like I'm drunk. When I turn around, he sees the gun in my hand, but his story was that I shot at him. But in reality, my gun was already empty at that point. He goes to retreat and trips over the curb and fires around. But between the two of them, this is 21 rounds that they fired at me. And they struck me twice in the shoulder. And then once I got hit, I walked over, sat down on the curb, and they kept firing at me. And I laid down, and one round skipped across the curb, and it hit the curbing and then ricocheted off my belly. So 2 drunk officers firing 21 rounds at me because they thought that I shot at them. So they say that the story changed.
We met online. We had a really strong connection. And within that first month of knowing each other, things just moved really quickly. Moving here together was like starting a new life. I knew I was going to be drinking that night, so I planned to just stay at my friend's house. The next day, I go back to the town and country to our unit, and it looked like a whirlwind had gone through there. There was papers all over the floor. The operator gave me information. They said that there was an arrest and a shooting. And at the time, I thought, oh, Terry must have gotten involved in something, like he must have saw something outside and tried to stop it, because that's just the way Terry is. He's kind of like a hero, tries to save the day all the time. And so they told me that Terry was in the hospital, and I immediately thought that that's what happened, that he tried to intervene into some sort of situation that happened. And the person on the other line said, no, he's the person that got apprehended. And at the time that it happened, it felt like this person was kind of ripped away from me.
The relationship ended a few months after being in there. I mean, it was more of a mutual thing, just because I couldn't expect somebody to stay with me knowing that I have no idea how long it's going to take to get out.
As a felon, the biggest struggles, like even opening up a bank account. I mean, you literally are put away for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years, whatever. You get out, you can't have a bank account. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get an apartment to live. Who wants to have a felon living with them? You know, and nobody takes into consideration what the felony really is or what the circumstances could have been. It's just the fact that that person's a felon. If it wasn't for certain people in my life, you know, luckily, you know, my best friend Peter, to allow me to live with him, I would be homeless, you know, and now we're prosecuting the homeless, you know what I mean? So I would have been right back in jail again. And part of my parole stipulations is you have to have a stable home. I've saved lives all my life. That's just what I've done, you know, and even my own lawyer, when I got out of prison, was, you're never going to work in your career field again. The district attorney, the judge, their biggest thing was, we are trying to keep you from working your career field again. It took me 3 years. It took me 3 years to find a job. It almost got to me mentally, because it took 3 years. I mean, the circumstances are stupid. It's a completely understandable medical, situation that you can explain. It was just by circumstance that overhearing a conversation in a place I probably was lucky to be, the right time, right place, I heard the person talking, and I kind of just jumped into the conversation and asked. It's not what I want to be doing. I want to be out there. I mean, the disaster response team that I belong to was just sent to Australia to help with rescuing wildlife, helping the firefighters put out fires. That would have been an opportunity for me to go do. But of course I can't go because they took my passport away from me. So it's things like that, you know, it's lifetime opportunities that I'm missing out on. I've been working on this since I got out in 2016. And I've run into every excuse possible known to man of why I can't get a pardon, or what I need to do to get the pardon, or what step I have to go over this, or what hurdle I'd have to jump through. It's just been another nightmare. The way Nevada works is I can't even apply for my license until 15 years after my parole is complete. So the only way to continue working in my career field is a pardon. That's the only way I can do it. It would wipe my record clean, it would seal everything off, and like nothing ever even happened, and I can go back into what I was doing before. I've been fighting hard to get the pardon, just because I want my life back. I want to be able to help others. That's, I believe, why I was put on this earth, was to help others. So I didn't really know about the affected families from people who lost loved ones to police violence, because I guess I didn't really hear about that part of it. Getting involved with Families United for Justice really opened my eyes to a lot of the injustice that was going on. I've definitely have found strength in some of these families that have been impacted, but I survived this. I'm a felon. I've got my own struggle to deal with, but they've lost a loved one that they'll never get back, you know? And so it's a different type of struggle for me than it is for them. So I feel like I'm an outsider. I think that I'm hoping that I will meet somebody that is a survivor. You know, with Christine even, we really connected and we started talking, and I think that's why I stay involved, because I can help the survivors more than I can help the impacted families that have lost family members, because I don't know what they're going through. You know what I mean? I don't have that same feeling of loss, you know, but I think I'm hoping that I can help, you know, survivors or the people that have been incarcerated, you know, wrongly, and, you know, what can I do when I get out?
I've been getting harassed by Metro and members of the PSU, or the problem-solving unit. They have been warning me to watch my back, lay low, and even forget about my pardon. This is the same unit that the officers who shot me belong to. My feeling is that going to the pardon board, this department is worried that the truth about the shooting and about how the officers were intoxicated is finally going to come out. And I do have a little story about the body camera. It was actually yesterday. I was sitting at the bus stop in my scrubs. I was going to work, and two African-American males actually came up to me and asked me why I was wearing a pager. And I told them that I said that it wasn't a pager, it was a body camera. And I asked them why they weren't wearing one. And they said, well, I got my phone. I said, that's great, but you realize that, you know, when you reach in your pocket, that's when you end up in trouble. And I told them about my story, about how I was shot by police, and that it's not just for my protection, but I also have recorded other incidents of people getting harassed by police. Thank you very much for listening, and especially thank you to the church for allowing us to come here and tell our stories.
Well, first off, I'm a Leo. So if you don't know what a Leo is, look it up. I mean, I think the first word in the Leo thing is determined.